Greetings, people of YouTube. It's been a minute since I had time to do a video. Last month I had the awkward occasion to attend a funeral on my birthday. It was an interesting event. Suffice it to say, things have been busy. Tonight I would like to address a bunch of little things that have been clinging there to the back of my mind that I have sort of picked up from various videos by various people over the last several months, actually, and I'm just going to start with this one for an opener. Doesn't just seeing his face give you that sinking feeling? Warning, Shives ahead.
The reason why the sign on the bus, on the metro, says, "Don't masturbate to female passengers," is because female passengers are the ones who are made to feel unsafe.
A sphincter says what? What?
Normally, you have to pay for this. Aside from the strange implication that the other non-female passengers on the bus are not going to be somehow disturbed by this action, really this is just a moment of opportunity to join in the whip it out game, get your phone, and start recording. On to more serious business. A while back, Vernaculis, you made a video where you were ranting a little bit about your frustrations with people who will not just simply admit when they are wrong in the face of incontrovertible evidence. And I went back through your videos to try to find it. I don't think I found the video exactly that I was looking for, but I did find what seems to be an echoing of that sentiment.
You need to recognize when you're wrong. That's what the main issue is. I've seen people support ridiculous positions simply because someone of a certain political or ideological leaning said it. For example, a feminist says,
What?
You need to recognize when you're wrong.
Seriously though, this is actually the point that I want to just comment on, because the first time that I heard you say this, I thought to myself, yeah, but who actually does that in conversation? When you are talking to somebody, regardless of whether or not you are presenting facts or citing studies, people are not inclined to just have this moment and change their mind on the spot. In fact, I would almost go so far as to say that anybody who did do that, you might want to question how they make their decisions. Speaking for myself, my first reaction would not be capitulation, specifically because it is possible for people to be citing studies that are not very good studies. The whole 1 in 5 women will be raped business, that study has been debunked over and over and over, yet it's still trotted out, it's still cited. When it first came to light, or when it first started being propagated though, it was thought to be legitimate and in an argument that could be used as a persuasive technique to make somebody change their mind or to cave into a point. What I think that we can really hope for as the best result of any debate is not to necessarily make people change their minds, but rather to simply make people question their stance. People seem to want to ultimately be able to do their own research, look into things, and then consider them for themselves. And the whole reason that I am bringing it up is because I love your videos. I really sympathize with how difficult and frustrating and futile it can feel to have arguments with people. But people do listen. The process of changing one's mind, though, is not an immediate thing, and that takes time, and there are a lot of things that go on inside a little cranium that we don't see. Just keep fighting the good fight. The next thing I'd like to discuss is this snippet that I found by way of Aldous Baylor, and it is of another YouTuber called Kizzume. I'll let you take a look.
And we seem to have this idea that if we change the wording, then we'll change the mindset.
I actually agree with both of you on this topic to varying extents. So she has put forth this idea that words have power and meaning. It's absolutely true. Our words and the things that we use do shape and form and contain our thoughts and our concepts. And this is, in fact, the premise behind every ritual, prayer, or invocation that is used across pretty much every religion that exists. They all have some form of saying things out loud, the purpose of which is to solidify ideas in one's mind, and thereby setting them in the subconscious and eventually manifesting them into the real world through one's actions. To your point, though, these words only have power over us because we are the ones who have given them that power in the first place, and we can therefore redefine it or take it away at our whimsy and will. To truly embrace what it means when we say words only have the power that we give them, however, requires a certain level of self-awareness and understanding for one's surroundings. It requires reflection and introspection and self-knowledge. So aside from the fact that I find this topic particularly interesting, especially with regards to how susceptible the neuroplasticity of the brain is to repetitive action, which lends credence to the argument that words do have power, I bring this up because what she is advocating for is the control of thought via the control of speech. If we speech police, we can thereby control those things which shape and form our thoughts. And what you are advocating for is exactly the opposite. This relationship between words and thoughts is somewhat symbiotic in that it is possible to quite literally brainwash people by only using certain types of language with them, by only attaching certain meanings, relevancies, or emotions to the words that they are using. It presents an interesting conundrum because if we want to keep the world of free speech and free thought such that we have now, we have to embrace certain ideas, and one of those is that in that world, people are going to make poor decisions and hurtful decisions. They are going to do things like drink and drive, or do drugs, or rob and steal from others. That is always going to be the case as long as we allow people to have some semblance of free thought. If we want to continue in that free thought world and grow towards an ever civilized society, then we have to nurture a very strong sense of personal responsibility in the individuals of that society. Unfortunately, I'm not really convinced that that is what is happening. It seems to me that we move ever away from personal responsibility, allowing people to shift that burden onto other entities or people. And the more that this happens, the more that people do not have to think about their own thoughts, question their ideas, be challenged, the more that they get to live in a world where they are never hurt by anything, and that we try to keep them from ever being hurt emotionally by anything, the more that we are going to have to steer towards some sort of paternalistic environment. For there's no other way to get people to act in a uniform fashion other than through sheer psychological programming. The reason that I brought this up today is because there is legitimacy to the notion that the words that we use shape our ideas, from which flow our actions. And so when people make this argument that we need to be controlling people's speech, it seems extremely plausible. What I think it's important to recognize, though, in the counter-argument is that when you follow this through to its logical conclusion, you are more or less asking to live in the world of Demolition Man, where you get a citation for using cuss words and you have to use the 3 seashells in the bathroom. And now on to the last bit, which truly fills me with a profound sense of rage.
Toddle off to the men's rights movement subreddits and bitch and moan with the other guys who are upset at the unfair divorce settlement, or because they never get to see their kids, or because the girl they like won't go out with them. There's a place for you. It's called the men's rights movement.
Yeah, because it's so bad to want fair and equal treatment under the law, or to see your own kids. How dare they? And the reason that I find this comment of yours so disgusting is not because of some glorious golden reception that the MRM gives to people who advocate for this position, but rather because what you are suggesting is that it should be acceptable and encouraged that our justice system engage in clear injustice. Confidence in our justice system is part of the fabric of society, and shame on you for mocking and making fun of anybody who would want to try to change that for the better. Shame on you for belittling and trying to embarrass men for wanting to be involved and responsible fathers. Feeling like you're facing insurmountable odds is extremely disheartening for anybody, and when people feel like they are faced like that, regardless of the situation, be it a man with spousal and child support or a woman trying to get out of a battered situation, when people are faced with the oppression of not being able to resolve their own situation, they quit, they leave, they give up, and that solves nothing. You are openly ridiculing and completely minimizing both people in that situation and the situation itself. If we want to encourage a familial situation, even when a mother and a father do not stay together, we have got to make that situation manageable for both sides. Do you really have such a disdain for MRAs or the MRM that you would completely disregard the very real and complex parental rights issues that we have in the United States right now? It is absolutely flabbergasting that you would mock sincere efforts at trying to improve these social and economical challenges that are faced in order to support a narrative. And there's nothing wrong with that to you? That doesn't give you pause in your mind and think to yourself, what am I saying? Please just take a step back and look at the vitriol that the narrative you're advocating for engenders. I'm not claiming that the MRM is all shiny, happy people, but certainly this quid pro quo does nobody any good. You have a wide reach and a loud voice here in the little world of YouTube. Use your force powers for good. That last bit was a little bit heavy. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please feel free to leave comments and engage in discussion below. I'm going to go ahead and put the links to the original videos and some interesting book reading as pertains to the topics herein in the low bar. If anybody comes across any topics or videos on YouTube or the interweb that you would like me to comment on, please feel free to point me at them. You can find me either on Facebook or my Twitter channel, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night. If I don't see you all before the holidays, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.